everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Circadians First Light 2nd edition, and I'm comparing it to the first edition, which as you can see is a smaller box for sure. Circadians First Light 1st edition, I've already reviewed that. You can see my review of it. We'll put a link in the description of this video so you can see how the game plays. Here I'm just talking mostly about the changes and my thoughts on the game as a whole. Let's get started. Okay, so first we're going to start with the boxes. So there's clearly a bigger box here, but it's not just the size of the box, and also that fact that Renegade is no longer at Garfield Games, but just I think the art is better. It's the same artist, but definitely she's just terrible, and this just looks a lot better. But it's what's on the inside that matters. All right, so here we have the rules. We'll come back to the rules in a bit. So this one has an insert. So here's the funny thing about this new insert. So everything fits in pretty well. We'll come back to how it looks in a bit. But this insert wastes so much space. It's hard to show you here, but once you take these out, this doesn't even go all the way down to the bottom of the box. And so this is a bigger box, and that's great, and it might matter more when expansions are here, but this insert is not particularly good. And then these trays, I really dislike these trays because for me, putting my fingers in here and pulling out the pieces was much more difficult than just, well, I mean, these are my own trays that I use. You'll notice that the components are pretty much the same. They have the 1s and 5s on these, so these are the same. I just don't particularly like these trays. And I'm going to keep this box for sure, but 100% not keeping the insert. Dice and harvesters are the same to the point where which one's from which game? And the answer is I don't even remember. This is the old Planet board. This is the new one. So the new one looks a lot better. We got two different sides here. I mean, this has much more of a robust coloring to it. I would say that it's maybe a little easier to read on the old board, but this is kind of a wash. It looks pretty much the same. This one I find super interesting. So the shields, which are not particularly very different here, it's like they just redrew them a little, which is a little odd to me. And then when you turn them over to look at the other side, they say almost the same thing. There's a couple word changes to it. But I just found that, instead of saying item cards in the original one, now they're just called contract cards. And you start with more water and stuff in the new one. So, I mean, there's changes on these, but I don't know. I just found it interesting how similar they were. One place where they really improved things, this is the original player board. This is the new one, and the new one just looks so much better, I think. The old one's fine, but this one just looks a lot nicer. And in fact, I think all the boards are that way. This is the old board. This is the new one. This is the old board. This is the new one. So there's, again, not huge changes here amongst these components, but overall, the new components are slightly nicer than the original ones. As I said earlier, now we have contract set of items, but as you can see, the cards are pretty much identical. There's a few extra tiles and things called the Allies expansion. This matters mostly, in my opinion, for the leaders. So the leaders are now cards instead of tiles. I actually didn't hate them being tiles, but they also changed the artwork for some of them. But there are 4 of these cards that were in an Allies expansion and 2 new leaders. So now there's, with 6 new leaders in the original game, each leader giving, some sort of special ability. Here you can roll and assign any die gained during the execute phase to your farms. When you fulfill a contract, you can pay to fulfill a second contract. And this one, actually, the Tsunari comes with an extra farm that they get. This guy comes with an extra, reveals a second event and picks which event they're going to do. This guy comes with an extra ship. So that's from the Allies expansion and all. So that's cool. And that's honestly the biggest difference between the games. Okay, so, man, calling this a 2nd edition is pretty close to the smallest change from a 2nd edition to a 1st edition. I mean, yes, the box is bigger, and they changed the art. Although I find the change in art interesting because like the cover is much better, but the rest of the art, it's the same artist, so like they drew some people in different poses. It almost feels like a wasted effort, you know. Why are people asking for this? Now, I will say there will be an upgrade kit because there's a few things in this game, a few minor changes and all. There's an upgrade kit that they'll be kickstarting, I guess, in 2023, along with the next expansion for this game, so you can get that. If you have the first one, though, you 100% don't need this unless you like having the bigger box and not having to squish everything in, which I do like. Although, again, that insert is, wow, it's a big, unnecessary insert. Circadians First Light, though, I was able to you know, try it again after I played my initial one, and I still really like this game. You know, when I pull up my review on the game, so I initially reviewed this when it first came out, and I was initially not super interested in it because of the cover, but my initial rating of this was an 8, and you know what? It's staying at an 8. This is a solid, good game. You roll dice, you place them out in different spots. Now, I will say that the game, the most interesting part of the game to me is still, I think, maybe moving the rover around on the planet and leaving it and getting resources. That's a cool concept. Or saving a die to next turn. This game does a really good job on that. I don't know if contracts are the best thing to go for, or making, you know, meeting other aliens. But I do like the extra special powers. There's a lot of special powers now, so they all feel very unique and different between the different starting characters you have. The game has some slight dips, and you will feel really constrained on resources at time. Although as the game goes by, you get tons of resources, to the point where at one point, even with the new 5 tokens, we ran out of water because there was just so much water pouring in from various spots. And then we just said, okay, everyone has 10 extra water, and put water back in. That was playing with a full complement, though. But dice placement is a genre that I enjoy a lot, and I like the space aspect of this one. You're definitely getting in each other's way, and you have to decide, do you want to build up your own area and get resources there? Are you placing dice to produce resources? Or are you going to put dice to move your rover? Or do you need more dice? You know, in most of these games, getting more dice is beneficial, but you're kind of wasting that sometimes in this game because there's so much going on. And of course, you lose dice by doing the contracts and stuff, and that's a cool concept too. I think this one holds up well. I know this one was not nearly as popular as the other games from Garfield, you know, the West Kingdom games and the North Sea games, but this one I think is right in there with them. It's certainly one to check out. So if you have the first edition, do not get this edition, unless for some reason you want the bigger box. Get the upgrade kit when it comes out, and maybe you know, I saw that when Shem announced this game was coming out, he's like, you could sell the first one and get the second one. I suppose you could do that too. But if you've never played Circadians First Light before, watch my review to see if you like the game, my original review of it, because again, it plays out the same way. And see if it's pretty fun. It might be worth your while to get. So anyway, that's kind of the changes in this set. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.